Hello and welcome to Read the Last Page,
A Yap session
book club
with your two favorite long distance best friends.
from distance right now.
Oh my god, literally.
The book we read this month is The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton.
And since we finally read the last page, let's talk about it. Hi, B.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good since you're here.
Oh my gosh. If you're watching the video right now, surprise, we're in the same room together. This is so weird.
Yeah, it really is kind of awkward actually.
I don't like not having my headphones on.
Yeah.
It's like, it is just like odd.
Well, and I'm used to looking forward.
Yeah.
Because usually I'm seeing you in my screen in front of me. So I'm like, should I talk like this or like this?
I don't know what the correct thing to do is.
I don't know.
Well, we'll go from here, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm good. We're in my basement at my parents' house, which is where I
Used to live.
lived for like 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
This room is actually ginormous. It doesn't necessarily look like it in the video, but it's huge.
So much space.
Yeah,
right
because
there.
it's not actually a bedroom. It's more like a living room in the
Yeah.
basement. But
There's a little fireplace right here.
Yeah.
Like that's how big it is.
yeah. So yeah, I'm in town, hanging out with my nephews, my family, and of course my bestie. Had a good flight. Got a little nauseous. It was very like. There's a lot of
Were there storms or was it wind?
No,
I
it
don't
was
know how
supposed to just
turbulence works.
wind, but it was just like I just like hadn't really eaten a lot that day because I wasn't buying a lot of groceries because I didn't want stuff like
Yeah,
just
to go
sitting at my
bad.
house
Yeah.
while I was gone. So it's like all I had was like these like wontons from Trader Joe's in the morning and an Olipop.
Oh no.
And then I just was like, I don't know. I
don't
just
feel
did
so
not
good.
feel good. So, but anyways,
That's
I'm fine.
tough.
I'm fine now.
That's
so,
good. Yeah. Well.
How are you?
Good. Great. I came in town just to see you. So,
Yeah.
So I've been here since this early afternoon, and so yay! I'm excited. You guys were having a sleepover tonight, so
Boo.
things are gonna get crazy.
I got my Dr. Pepper Cherry 0 sugar, which I've never had before.
You like
Really
it?
good. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Cherry naturally and artificially flavored, so there you go.
Tea. Yeah. No, I don't. Sorry, this is so awkward. I feel so weird. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Well, we read The Outsiders, so let's talk about it. So, this book, I read in 8th grade. I don't think Dan read in middle school.
I didn't have to read it. So
Yeah.
fun fact, I think I mentioned it on the pod before, but I'll say it again. Like a year ago, when the Outsiders like officially opened on Broadway, because if you don't know, they made it into a Broadway musical, which sounds insane, but trust, it's really good. I got really into The Outsiders because I was like, could be like my Newsies 2.0. It felt like a really natural thing that I'd like. And so I was really into like the songs, and I was like, I do just have to read the book. And so I read it a year ago, liked it a whole lot, and so yeah. So you mentioned reading it again this year, and so I was like, yeah, like I'll do it. So yeah. So I think it's really interesting because to me, low key, I'm like, thank God I didn't get my hands on this when I was 13.
Really?
Because I would have been insufferable. It would have been crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know how like the craze that happened through our middle school when like everybody read that for the first time.
Yeah.
You guys had to watch the movie. And,
Yeah.
like,
Those boys in that movie.
yeah, like genuinely, if your 8th grade class wasn't in shambles over these boys, who is it that comes out and is shirtless? And is it Rob Lowe? I think it's Rob Lowe.
Probably.
I know, like I just feel like that's all anyone can talk about.
Yeah.
I did see the movie though when I was younger, and I remember I didn't like
really?
the movie because I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is just really sad.
Yeah. I don't remember the movie very well. I just remember the boy that plays Pony Boy. Like, I remember what he looks like. but like I don't really remember much about the movie. But yeah, I wanted to read it because my mom is coming to visit me in April, and we're gonna go see The Outsiders on Broadway, and I'm so excited.
I'm so jealous.
And so I wanted to. This was like on our list of like possible reads for the podcast, and so I was like, we should read this before I go see it on Broadway, so I can like refresh.
It was such a good pick for our awkward 2 week.
Yeah, since we're doing two books in a row, like we only had 2 weeks, and
this was nice. Yeah, I like read a majority of it actually yesterday, and then
me too on the plane.
Yeah, and then this morning as I was getting ready, I was listening to the ending on my audiobook.
Oh yeah, I finished this after Danielle already got here today. We went to the library. I had like 10 pages left.
She wrapped it up.
But I meant to like just find it on audiobook to finish it, but I just forgot.
There are so many different versions. So I just listened to the unabridged version and like was like, well, I hope that's
There's an abridged version of this. It's already so short. That's crazy.
I know. I was like, I don't know. I think I just listened to the one I listened to last year.
So I bought this book recently when I was hanging out with my friend in New York that has read every book. And I got it like at a resale bookstore, and I'm going to put my mic down for a second to show the camera. Okay. There's literally one page. There's literally one page of like highlighting and notes that's like it's so obviously like written by like an 8th grader. Like they probably had to like turn in 2 pages of annotations.
Like just annotate 2 pages.
It's just so funny because the whole rest of the book there's no other pencil highlighter at all. Yeah. It's just this one. It's like a 3-page stretch. That's it. Anyways, it was $6 and I was just like, oh, I want to own this book, so whatever.
That's one of those things.
It's like charming to me.
Yeah, like that's one of those things that like I never really feel so bad about writing in books because like low-key if I'm just like grabbing a book from like a little library or like Goodwill or wherever and it has annotations in it, I'm like, wait, this could be fun to like have someone's book. My copy of A Room of One's Own, like by Virginia Woolf, has so many annotations in it. It's like literally crowded with annotations because I got it from our bookstore and I had to read it for one of my women gender studies classes. And like I was like, no, this is fine, but I was like, oh my god, like literally every page was like so highlighted, but I loved it. And it was nice because I had to talk about it in class, and I was like,
someone already kind of
I was like, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's true. Before we get too much into the book though, I need to show everybody what Dan got me for my birthday.
She's gonna show it off.
Look, it's for, if you're not watching, it's a rainbow jelly cat.
Yeah,
I've never had one before, and my bed in New York is like blue, and I have a very like cloud and like sky theme in my room. It's like sun, cloud, rainbow. So I've been wanting an accent. I don't know if Dan even knew this, but I've literally been looking for an accent pillow for my bed because it's just like all solid blue, and I'm like, I need a little something.
Pop of color.
So yeah, this is perfect, and it's so soft. I need to come up with a name for it.
I'm so happy you like it.
Yes. So
if you guys don't know this about Bea, but she like loves rainbows.
Yes.
And has since we were like
5th
children.
grade.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw it and I was like, I have to get that for her.
Yeah. I do.
I was so nervous though because I was gonna try to get it to you. If you guys don't know this too, Laura's birthday is the week after Christmas, basically. And I remember when I was like looking online to get you a birthday gift. It's March now, if you're listening at the time we're posting this. And so back in like November, December, and I was looking for Christmas gifts, the Jellycat website goes like everything sold out. Everything sold out. And so like I saw this and I was like, oh my god, it's literally sold out. And I was so scared. And then you were like, let's not get each other Christmas gifts, and I'm not gonna come back until like March. And I was like, okay. Perfect. And it came back in stock. I got it.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
I forgot about that. That did work out perfectly.
Yeah, thank God.
There you go. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so just as an overview of this book, if you haven't read,
Mm.
which I feel like this is a pretty popular one most people
I feel like
read.
most people either like just know. If you haven't read it, you just know
Right.
kind
Everyone like
of.
knows of it.
Yeah, it's not a super complicated premise.
It's set in the 60s?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, cuz it's copyright 1967. And it's really just about our main character is Pony Boy Curtis, who is 14, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
And it's about him and his kind of his found family, his group of friends, his two brothers, and their like five-ish other boys that are just they're there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a gang, but almost in a way. And it's just about them navigating life, literally. Like that's the basic premise.
Yeah, I would say it like follows Pony Boy and like yeah, the gang, I say in scare quotes, like the greasers is what they're called.
Right.
And so it kind of follows them over, I would say, mostly like maybe a 72-hour period, and then a really big thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then like kind of like the fallout of that. But yeah, it's more so just about, I would say, like the tension in Tulsa between the different the two classes. So like we have the socias, which are like the more wealthy people in town,
like the socialites,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And then the greasers, who are the people who aren't as wealthy. People tend to give them a worser rep than they deserve.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they're called greasers because they put grease in their hair. Is that?
Yeah, I think they're not washing their hair that often either, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like it's not a complicated plot. So
No.
that's like the basic
Yeah.
without giving spoilers.
Yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah.
I know. When I was reading this, I was like, it's so interesting because I feel like the story is so complex, but the way that everything kind of pans out and happens, I'm like, this is such a simple story, really.
Yeah.
But like, it just has like a lot of like emotional depth to it.
Yeah.
And like just like character depth, which is so interesting. But yeah, but like when you really think about it, like it's just like the things that lead to major events that happen in this book are like very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple things.
Like they're at the drive-in movie. And
yeah, and then it's just a fight.
Yeah. Literally.
And then that's the whole thing. Like that's the conflict of the book.
Right.
So, whew, but it's so good.
Yeah. It is very, very good. I think like definitely middle schoolers, this is great because the main character's 14.
Yeah.
And he's kind of going through a coming of age and a coming of knowledge of like learning about, I guess, like empathy and the fact that like everyone around him is going through something too.
Yeah.
And his kind of, I see some prefrontal cortex development.
Yes,
like
major,
in him.
yeah.
And so but it's also like, even as a 26-year-old, like this still was relevant. And it's also short. It's only like 180 pages.
Super quick read.
So it's a quick read. And it's also, if I feel like our audience is probably mostly girls, but to any guys listening, like
guys.
I feel like especially like young boys, which makes sense because this is from the perspective of a young boy and it's about his group of guy friends. Like this, I'm like, I think about like when I was in 8th grade and like I really loved reading this, but I'm glad that the teachers were having the 8th grade boys read this.
I was thinking that
like,
so
they
much.
Needed this, you know.
I was so happy that like this story is centered around a 14-year-old boy who is like a very kind kid.
Yeah.
Who has like very like not fair circumstances handed to him throughout this book. but like is consistently like we're consistently being reminded that he has a good head on his shoulders, and like he's never doing things out of malice or like
Right.
and like there are people and there are boys in this book who do things out of malice consistently, and it's never our main guy. And I just think I just like I took a moment earlier reading it and I was like, I'm so happy that this not only is a book about a 14-year-old boy, but like a book that's like taught to 14-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Like we make 14-year-old boys sit down and read it.
Yeah.
Or like watch the movie or like learn about the lessons it's teaching, because it's so much like not only like preaching kind of empathy and like emotional intelligence, but also like just like talking about the effect that masculinity has on boys from such a young age, and like the different ways that that can manifest in very toxic ways or like manifest in very like loving and loyal and like important ways. Like the masculinity conversation that is in this book is so incredible to me. Like I just and like just so poignantly done, and I just think it's like it's so nice that like this is being taught to 14-year-olds. And I especially think right now, and I mean we don't need to get too much into this, but like I think we're in an era currently where there's a lot of young boys who are being taught kind of dangerous, scary messages online, especially the age of the internet. It's just really easy to fall into bad rabbit holes. And so I think that this book is a very good reminder of like there are ways to like choose empathy and like kindness
and still be like manly and like you know yeah
and it's a good point.
So I feel like let's just get into it. So from here on in this episode, like spoilers ahead.
If you couldn't tell by the way, we really like it, so we say go read it. But
yes, definitely like highly recommend to literally everybody. It's like it's one of those classics, and it's like it's a classic for a reason.
100%.
It's good. It's really good. So you were saying something about, oh gosh, I don't even remember, but this was relevant to something you were just saying. But on page 26 he talks about like, oh, you were talking about like being loyal and stuff in the group, and Honey Boy is talking about like a gang versus a pack. So they're with the girls and they're, you know, Dallas has been kind of like bleh. But then Johnny's like, Dally's okay, you know. He says defensively, or Johnny says defensively, and then Pony's thoughts are like, you take up for your buddies no matter what they do. When you're a gang, you stick up for the members. If you don't stick up for them like brothers, it isn't a gang anymore, it's a pack, a snarling, distrustful, bickering pack like the Socias in their social clubs, or the street gangs in New York, or the wolves in the timber. I thought that was really interesting, like the way that he like metaphors, or I guess similes, like the gang is like they're gonna stick up for each other, even though Dallas's behavior wasn't necessarily so great, but he's like, hey, that's my buddy, you know. Whereas like he sees like the Socias as being more like wolves that are like they're fighting amongst each other, even though they're like in the same group, they're like kind of out to get each other almost in a way. I don't know, I found that really interesting. Like I think that's why the greasers, like they were just so much more like loyal to each other. You know what I mean?
I did, and it was what's so nice about I think this gang, the greasers in this book is like the way they show love to each other is so not like I think the masculinity that like I feel like I'm used to or see so often, or like you would expect from these types of characters. And it's like it is so based in loyalty, but like it's like there's this one scene that's like I think it's 2-bit, and like Ponyboy's walking alone by himself, and he gets in trouble with either Soda or Derry, I can't remember, but like one of his brothers, for walking home by himself because like the Socias are known to pick fights.
Right.
And so 2-Bit goes, well, you could have asked any of us. You know that one of us would have walked home with you.
Yeah.
And it's like little things like that. Like it's like you can see like the love that they have for each other is like so strong. And like it's like based on loyalty. It's based in protection. It's like based in like it's like, and then not to skip to the end, but like Dally literally like kills himself because the one thing he loved in life was Johnny.
Yeah.
And it's like that's how deep it goes.
Yeah.
It's so impactful.
Yeah.
And like it hits you so hard. Like I just feel like I ache for these boys. Like it's so, and it's like it's because there's a male loneliness epidemic. And there's always been a male loneliness epidemic, I feel like, because like all these boys are so lonely or so lost or so confused, and the one thing that they have is each other, and like you can see that so clearly throughout this book.
Yeah.
And it to me, it would make so much sense why they were like so like ride or die, because like they're all each other have.
Right.
And it's like we never get that from the Socias, which is so interesting. I know it's because like Ponyboy is an unreliable narrator, and like we're not getting like the Socias point of view as clearly. But it's just so true. It's like you see that love for each other through the Greasers because they have nobody else, and the Socias can't see the same, you know?
Yeah. And like about Johnny's so interesting because especially after like the one really bad fight, like all the other Greasers are like you don't mess with Johnny, and like you don't run up and even scare him, like with just
so
within the
beautiful
group. Yeah, like they are so protective of him. And it's interesting because Johnny and Ponyboy are similar in that they're like a little more soft. They're a little more like introspective and more like emotional and like in their head and stuff. And so much of what the Greasers are known for is like being tough and like and like they really look up to like Derry and Dally and the ones that like kind of have the muscles of the group, and like Soda, who's like so like fun and easygoing. But it's like, and I feel like Ponyboy feels a little self-conscious about, well, like for example, he walked home from the movies because he was like, well, the other boys, like they don't want to see a movie with me, like that's like I'm like I like to be emotional and watch movies. But it's like it's like, again, it's Ponyboy being unreliable because he doesn't see like all of the boys that are the big tough guys are so loyal and protective of Johnny, who's not exhibiting any of the normal like greaser, like like he's not tough and acting, you know. But it's like it's so clear that the Greasers love and admire Johnny and Ponyboy for being
themselves.
Yeah, kind of
different.
The softer, more like emotional. So it's like, but Pony thinks like he's like not.
Yeah.
Like he needs to be like tougher and cooler.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I feel like even the other Greasers think like, oh, this is like the cool way to be. But it's like, they all need to think about what is really important to you guys, because you're actually like, you love and admire these young kids who are so like good-hearted. You know what I mean?
It just, you know, that scene at the end where like, I can't exactly remember what the context was, but I believe it was like Ponyboy was fighting somebody, and 2-Bit, they run away. They end up running away as a social, obviously. But and 2-Bit gets really mad at him because he's like, you can't going all like, don't get all mean on me. And then Ponyboy sits and he picks up the glass because he doesn't want a tire to pop. It's so beautiful. Like that is so, and that I think is like, it's so clear.
I literally wrote picking up the glass.
Yes, Ponyboy.
But he's like I don't understand like why 2-Bit thought that was weird. Like I just didn't want someone to get a flat tire.
He's so good-hearted.
Yeah.
And you can tell because he came from such an emotionally loving family. I know he has issues throughout it with Daryl.
Dairy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like it's like what I love so much about this group is like it doesn't seem like they're ever making fun or putting down boys for being soft or like
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent, because like it's like Soda Pop being like your middle brother, and
Yeah.
he's like the most emotionally intelligent, like pure soul who
Yeah.
just wants to like get married and fall in love, and like he
Yeah.
wants his little brother to know that he's loved and will listen to all of his problems. Like it's like there's so many signs of like intelligence or emotional intelligence shown within this group. And it's so crazy because it's like it's the point of the book, but like
Right.
but like I'm just like, if you, because you know that like viewing it through the socialist perspective, they're not viewed as intelligent, they're not viewed as kind, they're not viewed as soft. It's always the opposite. But it's like people have so many layers, and it's like this book is, it sets out to remind people that. And it's, yeah, I don't know, I just love it.
Yeah.
I think it's so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. There's something oh, when they save the kids from like the burning building,
Mm-hmm.
and then the random guy Jerry or something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
he's like who are you guys? Like, you guys must be angels that were sent to save us. And he's like, no, we're greasers, hoods, like juvenile delinquents, like, this one's wanted for murder, like this one's running in with the cops. And the guy's like, what? You're kidding me? Like, and it's like, yeah, because it's like they're good kids. Like, they're,
Yeah.
like they're in hard situations. And now I think some of them, like Dallas and stuff, they kind of get themselves into trouble sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I don't know, it was just like, I just loved that part where the guy's like, who are you guys? You must be angels. And he's like, no, like we're just like basically hoodlums. And it's like, no, like you're not. Like,
it's so telling too that like the one time they leave their town and like they act as they would still in their town,
yeah,
they're viewed with like such like high regard, and it just like
that's
goes
so
to show you that like
true.
so much of their circumstances is just based on the place that they live.
Wow,
And like
that's
they were
so true.
they were born into these circumstances, and they never stood a shot, because if
Yeah.
you're not wealthy, you're viewed as a hoodlum or whatever
Yeah.
whatever word he used. And
Yeah.
like it's just like I love that like they get out of the town and they do this like huge thing that's like so impactful.
And they were like technically like on the lam in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like it makes me so sad.
Yeah.
But like it's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Wow.
so important to know like the whole point of these boys is just like the fact that like it's like, oh my god, it reminds me of that book The Other Westmore.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Which, if you guys haven't read that book, it's basically by a man named Westmore who writes a book about somebody else who has the exact same name as him, and like showing their two completely different circumstances. Like I think the other Westmore goes to jail.
Yeah, and one's like a doctor.
Yeah,
or something.
and like a published author now.
Yeah.
And like he like it's just like a lot of times like things are just based on the circumstances you're born into, and it's like really unfortunate. But I think this book really shows that well.
Yeah. Sorry, I did a little tiny burp in the mic. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry.
Wait, I didn't hear that. But
It
that
was
is
really
so
tiny.
funny.
I hope it just didn't
It
get
didn't
picked up.
ASMR
It's
is burping into the mic.
It's that Diet Dr. Pepper Cherry Zero Sugar.
That is so funny.
So the thing that I remembered the most from this book,
Mm-hmm.
from when I read it in 8th grade, like this has stuck with me like my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
is that the Soch that dies,
Yeah.
like they say that the one thing he wanted was for like someone to tell him no, his parents to tell him no, and like give him like
you
guidelines.
mentioned this on a podcast once.
Yeah, I'm telling you, because this is the thing that I always like. It really stuck out to me. I think because as an 8th grader, my parents, I had a lot of rules, and there was a lot of stuff that I wasn't allowed to do that I felt like my peers were allowed to do. And it really stuck with me because I was thinking like, well, maybe I am like more fortunate that my parents are like giving me guidelines and rules because like they don't want me getting into trouble like these kids, you know what I mean? And anyways, reading it this time, the thing that like stuck out to me within that scene is that at the end when I think Ponyboy's just like thinking, and he's thinking about this kid, and he wanted rules. He wanted someone to tell him no and give him guidance. And Pony says something like his parents didn't give him rules. Was it because they loved him too much or too little? And that, I don't know, that was really like, I don't know, it just stood out to me because I already knew that scene,
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's interesting thinking about, when I was in 8th grade and Ponyboy's age, he gets upset. He feels like Derry a lot of the times is like, on to him too much. But it's like he's on him because he loves and cares about him and wants to see him like do well in school and maybe go to college and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like, when I was that age, I felt like I felt loved by my parents. Okay, I'm not saying, but I felt like, oh, they don't want me to have fun, and they don't want me to get to experience life, and they don't want, but it's like, really, it's like they were doing that out of loving me, It's just interesting reading it as a 14-year-old compared to a 26-year-old, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I thought that line was just also really striking and really impressive for Ponyboy as a 14-year-old to be thinking. Like, oh, he didn't have rules. Did they love him too much or too little?
He was having some major revelations in this book. I didn't realize it had only been like, it has been less than a year since his parents died.
Yeah.
That is a crazy place to pick up this book.
Yeah.
And have him go through another. Oh, it's so heartbreaking. It's actually so heartbreaking because, like, genuinely the amount of loss that this group and specifically the Curtis boys experience within a year period is crazy. And, like, Ponyboy being freshly 14.
Yeah.
13 when his parents died. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot. Like, the fact that, like, oh my god, and it's the whole point of it all, but like the fact that he stays gold throughout the whole entire
Okay, when we were in 8th grade and we read this, stay gold, that line was like, that was your Instagram caption. That was like people would like shout that in the hallways, stay gold. Stay gold, Ponyboy. It was like, that was so iconic.
Yeah, there's a line too in the movie that I really love that goes, "Do it for Johnny, man. Do it for Johnny."
Yes,
it's so good.
I remember that.
It's so good.
I feel like everyone like in middle school would say that.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so good actually.
That just like you just like pulled that out of my brain. It's just 8th grade is just so funny to think about.
It's a crazy time.
Something else is that like Ponyboy like is realizing that like all these people like are, well, I don't know if he's realizing this or maybe I just realized this, I don't remember, but like all these people are opening up to him. Like, for example, Johnny is honest with him. Soda, maybe some of the other boys, I don't know. Cherry like says stuff to him that like she's like, I haven't ever said that before. One of the other boys, like, I think when they're getting ready for the Rumble, he's like, hey, come talk to me. Like, one of the Soch boys. And he's like, I don't really want to do this. And it's like, all these people, like, speak their innermost true feelings to Ponyboy. And it's like, it's because people, they know that he's like, he's authentic and like he will listen to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's got like I think one of the most purest souls. Like he just like feels like a very clean slate type of person.
Yeah, and it's like, it just feels like all these other characters are putting up a front about what
Yeah.
they think is important, but it's like, but then when they have the chance to speak their mind, they're all kind of on the same page, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so Ponyboy is just like seeing and hearing from everyone, like, all these other people don't want to be fighting. They
Yeah.
are more similar than they think they are.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think he really was in a unique position to kind of make a change between the two groups, because he wasn't trying to fight them all. He was just, he was just there and willing to listen and willing to, like, just like, yeah, be authentic, I guess.
Yeah.
And they, like, other people recognize that and they feel comfortable, like he's trustworthy even if they don't know him, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, it's so interesting. And
Yeah.
I love that about him,
I know. I love him as the main character so
Yeah.
bad. It is so beautiful. Like I think it's true. Like he does bring out the best out of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I personally like I just love his relationship with Johnny.
Yeah.
I just feel like that is such a Johnny. Okay, and not to at risk of sounding like somebody who like needs to desperately watch another movie and read another book. Johnny reminded me a lot of Beth in Little Women.
Oh, yeah.
And like specifically, there's like this whole part at the end. I wrote it in on my phone for some reason and not in my Google Docs.
Okay.
But it's like there's like a moment where like it might be 2-Bit. Why do I keep referencing 2-Bit? Fun fact,
know.
he was my favorite greaser growing up for some weird
Really?
reason. But like he said something along the lines of like it needs to be anyone but Johnny. Like we could get along with anyone but Johnny.
Yeah.
Or oh my god, there was a point where he goes, I used to want to die, but 16 years of living just isn't enough. Johnny. It makes me so sad.
Yeah.
But no, like literally the Perilous Little Women kind of go crazy. It's just like
Yeah.
that poor boy. I mean, there's a moment at the beginning where like they talk about how he was at a time the least likely to cause harm to somebody, and now he carries like a switchblade.
Yeah.
And will use it on somebody with the intention to kill if like he ever gets in harm's way again.
Right.
And like I think it's just like I think his story and his arc is like so tragic.
Yeah, it really is.
And it gets to the point where like, you know, when he's in the hospital room and like he's like his mom's there and like saying like he doesn't want to see his mom, and she's like, you owe me for all the years that I raised you, and like he's gonna be paralyzed and like all this stuff. And it's like it gets to the point where you're just like, this poor boy, like no matter what, his situation's never gonna get better. It's so heartbreaking.
It makes me think of like in Stranger Things when they're talking about like who's like the heart of the campaign or the
like
heart
Dustin.
of the group. Yeah, whoever it is, it's like I was thinking like Johnny is like the heart of this group. Like he, in the sense that they all loved him. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
they all loved each other. Like they all cared about each other, but like I feel like Johnny, it's like they were his little brother to all of them, even Ponyboy in some ways, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. He just was the heart of the group, and like when he says like we could get along with anyone
but Johnny.
Yeah.
And isn't it so sad too that like it's the complete opposite of his home situation and
Yeah.
circumstances? Like he comes from such an unloved home, but like everybody in the group is like, you are a necessary asset to
Yeah.
this. Like we love you so much.
It's
I-
so good.
I love it when boys can be vulnerable with each other and like
Yes.
show like unfiltered love.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and even seeing just like the way Soda Pop like cares for Ponyboy,
Yeah.
it's just it just makes it so sweet to me. It's like, you know, we both just only have sisters.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't even know like I don't know brother dynamic.
Yeah.
Personally, like
Yeah.
I don't know it between brother sister, and I definitely don't know it between brother.
Yeah.
And it's like my nephews and stuff, but like they're so little. It's like, but like I'm just like I hope that there's a lot of brotherships out there that are similar to these boys, you know?
It's so true, because like when I was reading it, I was like, I come from a family of like, I have an older sister and younger sister, and their dynamics reminded me so much of the typical three sister dynamic. And so it's like Daryl, obviously eldest daughter core, like trying his best to be the parent, keep things afloat, and then like Soda Pop consistently having to be the mediator of the group, being the middle child, and like, yeah, my king. That's why I love him so bad.
I mean, he had his scene at the end where he's like crying and upset, and he's like, "You guys, like, please don't fight." I was like, "This is so Danielle." Like, not that our sisters are like fighting all the time, but just like the wanting
everyone
to be happy and like everyone to be on the same team and same page.
Yeah, and not to air their dirty laundry, but like my older sister, my younger sister, do not get along as well as I get along with both of them, which is fine. They just have very similar personalities and also very clashing, like the things that are similar clash a lot. So which is totally fine, but I do play Meteor all the time, and so like I relate to Soda on such a deep level that way. And then like Ponyboy, I think, is classic youngest child, but there's so much also going on, obviously, like a great loss at such a young age, and like, you know, he's having to change his life so much at such a formative age too. I think that's really difficult. But like he is very much so, like, he reminds me a lot of like and again, read another book, Danielle, but like Amy women in a way, not as like brash as Amy can be sometimes, but like, you know, like just like very like, well, like one-sided in a lot of things, like thinks he knows the world to be true, and like wants to just get out and like just let me be a part of things, but like not understanding that people are trying to like protect him from growing up too fast,
right?
That kind of thing. And I think it's just like I just love their dynamic so much. I think there's like so much depth there. It's so interesting too. I feel like to Ponyboy, it's like Derry takes on a role of like a stern father figure, and Soda Boy's kind of like that soft maternal love for him.
That's so true.
And oh my gosh, I feel for that family so much, because like they're so like protective and loving of each other, but like it's such a hard situation to be in. And I just like, there's a song in the Outsiders musical, by the way, called Throwing in the Towel, and it's from Derry's perspective, about which I love that, because I think one of the things about this book that I want is just like more of everybody. Like I love that we're in Ponyboy's perspective for the whole entire thing, but I'm like, I want to know what everyone else is feeling.
Right.
But like there's a song called Throwing in the Towel from Derry's perspective, and Soda sings on it too, but it's like about like how hard it's been for Derry to be like a parent to these poor boys, and like feeling like he's messing everything up. And I think that's just like, it makes me cry every time I listen to it, because I'm like, oh my god, this 20-year-old boy, he's 20. That's crazy.
Like he's not even like, I think towards the end Pony like realizes like, you know, my brother is actually not that much older than me, like, and he's like having to do all this stuff, you know. There's like a scene too where he's talking about how they have chocolate cake for breakfast a lot, because Derry just can't say no, and he also loves chocolate. And I'm just like, it shows how young they really are. And it's so sad too that like there's a line in it that Ponyboy says where he's comparing Derry to their dad, and like how their dad was always like so fun loving, and like they always looked like twins, like or brothers, Derry and his dad, because of how young spirited and young looking his dad was. But like Derry has the eyes of a much older man already. And it's just like, you feel so much for this poor boy, specifically being, I think, in my 20s now, and knowing that he's 6 years younger than me. I'm like, oh my god, this poor boy. And it's like, he knows that his life is basically over, because he's gonna do everything to make sure that Ponyboy is okay. Like I think they said like he would have maybe gone to college, like if their parents were alive, and like he kind of just gave that up to be at home, so that like they didn't all get separated and stuff. And like
that one part where they talk about how he could have been a Soch if not for Soda Pop and Pony Boy. It's like, I'm like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And like, it is true. And it's like, never once does, I mean, I don't remember, I mean, maybe he does actually, but like, it never feels like it. He doesn't like complain about his circumstances. Like, it's like something that he's like long accepted. And it's because like his love for Pony Boy is like so, like, he's like, if I can't get out, I want him to have everything he needs in order for him to like make something of himself that me and Soda can't. And that's like just like so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I love that family so much.
Yeah. I know. And something that I like wrote down, this isn't quite on the same page, but when they saved the kids from the building, the newspaper says juvenile delinquents turn heroes. And another two-bit part.
Two-bit low-key preaching.
He said, what I like is the turn bit. Y'all were heroes from the beginning. You didn't just turn all of a sudden. And it's like, yeah, it's like I wrote down, like, right, like, that's their nature, is like good boys. Yeah. You know, but in their situation, they haven't been able to necessarily showcase that. And I was thinking about how you said, like, the first time they kind of go outside their town, the other people are seeing, like, oh, they're heroes. And it's like, yeah, they didn't turn into heroes.
They've always been
They just
heroes,
were good boys that, you know, and I think about Johnny saying, like, you know, it was worth it to save those kids, even if it means, like, I'm not going to make it. And, like,
I know.
It's just, like, that is such a selfless, not only was it a selfless act, but a selfless way of thinking too. And like selfless way of coming to terms with, like, you know, I think he knew he was on his way out, you know? Yeah. And yeah.
I feel like
it's just so good. Like, you know?
Yeah. I think that's one of the most like impactful traits I think that all these boys consistently share that I found so moving is like, they're so selfless. So selfless. I think the only person who really has a hard time not being selfless, I guess being selfish, would be Pony Boy. And that's like his whole journey kind of is like he needs to learn his lessons. Yeah. Because he's 14 and he doesn't understand the impact of all of his circumstances currently, or like how deep they go. But I just think like Dally, even for example, like, and he's the most coarse guy in this group, and like the fact that like Johnny comes to him immediately after killing somebody, and like Dally like doesn't, like, he's just like, okay, we're gonna get you out of town, and like I'm gonna come find you, and like and like him running into the building and like dragging them out, or like saving Pony from, and it's like it's
there's no question about how it's going to affect themselves. It's just like, oh, my brother, my friend is in trouble. Okay, what do I do to help? Yeah, like, it's no question. Yeah, it's I think it's like just a really beautiful trait that like is consistently seen in this group of boys that I don't know, I just really liked. Yeah, no, another instance of that is when Derry hits Pony Boy, and so he runs and he finds Johnny like at the lot that they're always at, and Pony like explains the situation. He's like, we're running away, like we're leaving town, and Johnny's just like, okay, like, let's go. Like which part of that is because Johnny really doesn't really have a home that he wants to stay at anyways. Right. But it's just like, there was just no question. It's like, okay, I guess we're going. Let's go. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Like, that just really, I think that also shows how Johnny really clung to the greasers. Like, like he would go to the ends of the earth if they said, you know, like, because those are his people, and, you know. Yeah. Oh gosh. This book gets me so emotional. Yeah. I kind of want to talk a little bit about like
the girls in the
Oh
book.
yeah, you said you wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah, just because I kind of want to get your vibe on it. And this is where I wish I read the book when I was in 8th grade, because I feel like
Uh-huh.
if I had this talk in an academic setting, people would give me clarity on my weird feelings about this. But like, so there's a couple girls in this book. I think the main one is Cherry,
Right.
who is a soc, and like, you know, she's dating Bob, who's the
Bob,
guy who
yeah.
gets killed by Johnny. And so she's so interesting to me
Yeah.
because I understand her purpose so much in this book, and I think like I'm glad that she can operate as a kind of she's a fairly complex character, because like she's understanding that like the greasers are not made to be exactly what like the socias have said they are.
Right, right.
And like she shows a lot of compassion towards the greasers that typical socias don't.
Mhm.
And but she's also like, she doesn't go see Johnny at the end of the book, because she's like, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
like, you killed my boyfriend. I know he did bad,
Yeah.
but like I loved him, and like you don't know the person that he was when we were together. And I think that's a
Right.
really interesting thing.
Yeah.
My thing is the dynamic she has with Ponyboy will always confuse me.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand what the purpose of the dynamic is, I think, because maybe I'm reading it like way too simplistically, but like, is that a word? Simplistically?
I think so.
Simplistic? I don't know. Who cares?
I don't know.
Simply? Too simply?
Maybe.
But, anyway, maybe I'm just like not giving it the complexity and depth that like it deserves, but it feels so awkward to me, because it feels like it should be a romantic thing,
Oh.
because like it has all the makings of it. They're like talking empathetic, like not empathetic, what emotionally,
Yeah.
and deeply.
Mhm.
And then like the fact that like a guy dies because like she's hanging out with Ponyboy,
Uh-huh.
and like that threat is already made clear. And Ponyboy is also talking about the fact that he's never really talked to a girl before,
Yeah.
but like he likes talking to Cherry, and like he's like this is quite nice, like I like this. And
Yeah.
then, like, but so like that's never there. Like the romance is never there. But for some reason there's a romantic line between her and Dally. That confuses me.
So here's my take on it.
Please tell me.
I see it as um so they're at the drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
The Cherry and what's her friend's name? I don't even remember.
Marcia. I think?
Marcia. Cherry and Marcia are mad at their boyfriends, so the boyfriends leave, and then or they kind of kick them out basically. And then Dally comes up and they're like, this guy is annoying. Ugh. Then like Johnny and Ponyboy are there. The way that I see it is the girls are like, they know that they're beautiful Soch girls, and they're like, let's just make these boys stay by like asking them to come sit with us. And it's more like kind of like a tease. Like, oh, like let's make these little boys' hearts flutter and like la 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 la.
Mm-hmm.
But like I never read it. I never read it as Cherry having any actual romantic inclination towards Ponyboy, like at all. Maybe Ponyboys might be crushing on her a little, cause and Johnny too with the other girl, cause they're the girls are a little bit older, right? They're like more like junior seniors, right?
I have no idea. I have no, like Bob was a senior.
Yeah, and like
so
and Dally's like 17 or 18, I think.
yeah, I always assumed they would be like 15, 16.
Oh, see,
But like I don't know.
I always assumed they were more like 16, 17. And then Ponyboy's like
14.
barely 14 and Johnny's like he's 16 but he's kind of
See, that's also a thing that I kept forgetting when I was reading this book. I was like, oh, Ponyboy's 14.
Yeah.
To me, he always read as like a little older.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so
he's young.
so I thought it was more like the girls being like, our boyfriends are annoying us because they want to get drunk or whatever it was. And I think the whole thing with Dally is like the girls know, Cherry knows that Dally teasing her and like being like pushy and annoying is like it's him flirting with her. And I think she is like, interested, but she doesn't want to lead on because it's like she does have a boyfriend and he's a greaser. So
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I can't get mixed up with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this little 14-year-old, like, what's the
Yeah.
harm? Like, what's the harm in just being like, oh, like, come sit with us? Like, I feel like I always took it as them being like, not like a pity date, but like, let's just make these boys' day. These poor little
Yeah.
hoodlum boys that have nothing and we're beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like I just thought that like their connection was like a little too deep and like too like brains coming together like for it to be just like something to blow off, you know? And I just didn't understand why it felt like all the makings for her to also be interested in Ponyboy, because I think Ponyboy might have a little bit of a crush, but I don't think he knows enough to understand that it's a crush. But I was like, it just feels like it had all the makings for it just to be like, okay, she might also have a crush on Ponyboy. But then like the whole point with Dally just always confused me. I'm like, I don't like the fact that like it's hinted there, because also then for me then my thinking is I'm like, there's 3 boys right now involved in this one girl character, and she's the only girl character that like we really get to see on the page. And it is probably because this book was made in the 1960s. But for me, I just like it always like it just I don't love it. And so I just never fully understood it. But I think it kind of makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, like to me, I feel like Cherry was able to open up and be honest with with Ponyboy because she doesn't see him as love interest nor a threat.
Okay.
He's just a boy from the other side who seems really sweet, and she's like, oh, like this young kid, like he's not gonna nothing's going to come from, if I'm honest with him, like he's not gonna go spill what I said to like the other older boys, like her secrets would be safe with him, and I think she feels comfortable opening up to him because she doesn't need to like save face. Like, you know, she might not tell her social friends whatever she's thinking because it would make her look like she's being sympathetic towards the greasers or something.
Right.
But she can say that to Johnny because that's, or not Johnny, Ponyboy, because that's not like, he has no opinion of her beyond just, oh, she's a soch. I don't know. That's interesting that you thought they might be younger. Like, I always took it as they were
much older. Yeah.
They were,
and that was just like not
like definitely older than Ponyboy, to where almost like a Wendy and Dipper from Gravity Falls. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
yeah. Well, like, are their ages ever confirmed in the book and I just missed it?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because, like, I just don't know. And also, if you watch the musical, I feel like the musical, you need to let me know your thoughts after you see it. Because, like, I don't know if they age up Ponyboy in the musical, but, like, I know it's, like, all, like, people in their 20s playing these people, obviously.
Right.
And so I feel like the musical reads it a little bit, like, it could be more of a possibility.
Or ambiguous. Yeah.
But I don't know. And so, anyway, I think that's really interesting. And I like, that honestly makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It always just made me feel strange. Like, I just never understood. But
yeah, that's interesting because I really like their
dynamic,
their like friendship, dynamic, whatever you want to call it.
And I guess it also, like, it makes a lot of sense too that, like, the fact that there is no threat there, but like a man loses his life over something that was never a concern anyway.
Yeah,
like, that
it wasn't supposed to be a threat.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense and plays a lot into like the actual
like literariness of it.
Like the real conflicts of the book. It's true. Anyway, okay, cool. Well, thanks for
but I agree. I see your point in that I don't feel like we got enough reason of like why she feels like, oh, but I could fall for Dally.
Yeah, I wish that wasn't there, because like, I don't get it.
Me personally, I could not fall for Dally. I don't know.
Dally's a very interesting character to me. I think he has so much complex, like complexities behind him. We just don't get enough of it.
Yeah,
we just get like what Ponyboy knows.
That's true.
And like, you know, we see glimpses of it through his relationship with Johnny, and and I was emotionally impacted enough by his character arc to cry at the end when he dies. But yeah, I do think it's just like, I don't get what Cherry sees in him.
Yeah.
Because they have that one weird interaction.
Right.
And then, and then everything else is off page.
Right.
So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. And I don't like it. But like, sorry, Essie. if somebody wants to tell me a better reason for why it happens, please do. Because I want to know. I want to feel better about it. Because I love this book.
Yeah.
I would love to love every facet of it.
I don't really, like, for me personally, it's like, I would love some more clarity in it, but it doesn't bother me in any way.
Yeah, see, it bothers me. I don't know why.
Also, in case you guys didn't know, we read her foreword.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
S.E. Hinton started this book when she was 15, finished it when she was 16.
This literal queen. And the reason why
Like,
she wrote
what?
it was because she didn't see her circumstances ever talked about in books.
Yeah.
And I think that's so interesting that like what she views as like as her life, or like the things that she witnesses, is a story about a group of boys. And like the complexities inside of their relationship. When you're a part of a group that is seen as less than by everybody else in the town, I think that's so impactful. And the fact that, okay, not to praise teenage girls too much, I mean, but I will all day, but like the power of teenage girls and their emotional intelligence, it's so beautiful.
Like, to write this deeply at 16 is
incredible,
insane. And something that she wrote in her little letter thing at the beginning was, she almost felt like this book was just like meant to be written, and she just had the gift of like being the one to write it. And that's like, to go back to what we were saying at the beginning, like, I just feel like everyone should read this book, especially like middle school boys. And like I just agree, like, this book just, it needs to exist, and thank goodness that it does. You know.
And isn't it so incredible too that like it's a book that was written in 1967, and the fact that we are now almost 60 years later, it still rings so true. I think to just like the conversation of masculinity, I think,
and like fitting like the pull to fit into a group, and the way that in some cases, like, clinging too much to a group and your identity too much to like one thing makes you see others as completely other. You know. And it's like, you know, in a lot of ways we're not all so different, you know.
It's true. It is true. I do think if this book was written now, though, because they're really pushing that idea in this book, and maybe this is me just being too close-minded. We'll see, but like there's that idea that like Ponyboy comes to, where like people are like, us socials, we have just, it's just as bad over here. I don't buy it fully, and maybe it's just because like our greasers are being, like, every greaser we know has an incredibly tough life, and the fact that like they're still getting picked on by the socias, and like and there's no way to win. I think that's just like, that's what rubs me the wrong way. It's like I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way to win, because no matter if they lose the fight or win the fight, the socials are always going to be in a better situation. Because of,
that's true.
Because of just like they come from wealth, and appearance is everything. And so it's like, if you appear to be whatever. Yeah,
because it's like when they get into the fights, I think they were saying like, the police are going to like arrest the greasers and not
because
the
they look like they showed up to a rumble, and the socials look like put together. And appearances are everything. And so it's just like, that's one thing that I'm like, if this book were written today, I do think that it would be less so of a, we're not all that different, but like more so like talking about like the actual complexity of like social class wars. And like the fact that like like, again, to reference the other Wes Moore, but like genuinely, like, some people are born into really, really hard circumstances, and it's just like that's what they have to live with.
Yeah.
And like they're always going to be working 2 times harder than the
like
person.
think of Johnny. Like there's
Yeah.
no like they can all learn that everyone has a tough time, but it's like
Johnny never had a shot.
no, none of them
Yeah.
socias are ever
Yeah.
gonna ever be as bad as Johnny was. You know?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like, yeah,
that's
so
true.
like that was one of those things that like it kept coming up in the book, and Ponyboy was learning. I think it's a valuable lesson for Ponyboy to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that like it was hard for me to personally buy in the year 2024 or 5. You know, I'm just like more. I would say like we're more so aware now of like kind of like those complexities,
like
that
the inequities and stuff.
yeah, and that maybe like a 16-year-old girl in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the 1960s wasn't so aware, or even wanted to write about in a book. You know what I mean?
Right. And also it's like, you know, maybe that lesson doesn't have to be applied to the whole world, and more so just like maybe I can just apply it to my group of peers around me. You know what I mean?
True.
You know,
that's a good point.
So
valid.
Yeah. But what a good book. Seriously.
It's so good. The ending is great. Okay. When Laura finished this, she put it down and she goes, "Oh my gosh." And immediately I start like drawing a circle with my finger because I'm like, it's so cyclical.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Like it starts with the same line it ends on.
Which like I knew, but you probably didn't know. Does the movie do that?
Well, I don't remember, but yeah, when I read it for the first time last year, like that.
Oh, right. I forgot you read it last year.
Yeah. So like that was like really that. Like I just, and it hits me every time because like I'm just like, I love that, and it's such a good line too. It's like, what is it? Can we read it?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to it.
I was reading the discussion questions. When I stepped out into the bright sunlight from the darkness of the movie house, I only had 2 things on my mind. Paul Newman and a ride home.
Ooh, and it's so good because sorry, not to get too, I was a creative writing major, so let's get into it. But
let's do it.
It gives the perfect amount of exposition for like where we are, what the time is, and who Ponyboy is as a person, all in the first line.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. And like the fact too that like it can be applied to the end of the book and have like even more emotional depth and like excitement and like just like it gives so much more purpose to the story as a whole. So good. A 16-year-old writing this is crazy to me.
It's crazy.
It's so lovely. I just think it's great.
I also think like that the fact that it was written by a 16-year-old, like the what would you call this? The voice that it's written in is so true. Like it's so.
Yeah, it feels like he's 14 and talking to me.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like had a grown person that was trying to write this story like written it maybe would have felt less natural.
Yeah.
But it's so
authentic.
Yeah.
And it's so true because it's like what I love about this is like S.E. Hinton was going through this stuff. Like the only thing that's different is like I don't think she was a part of the greaser pack in her town, and like she's obviously not a boy, but like she grew up in Tulsa. She grew up in the 1960s. She grew up with this type of rivalry that she saw in her town, or these social class wars that she saw consistently in her town, and it just feels so like lived in and real, and like that's why I think the book just stands the test of time because it's so authentic and it's so personal.
Yeah.
And just like it's like so close to her heart, and I just love that she was able to capture kind of like this time in history with that much like clarity and precision,
because it doesn't feel like, which like there's nothing wrong with doing this, but it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm an author and I'm gonna make the choice to write in this narrative style or this voice or this tone. It just like that was just the correct way to write it. And it's like, you know, they kind of the sentence structure / their word choice, it's like not so relevant to the 2020s, but it took me 2 seconds to get into the like how it's being written and how to read it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
so natural and it makes sense. It's just perfect.
It's so good. Oh, I want to shake her hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been reading my book has like discussion questions cuz they know that 8th graders are reading this.
True.
And there's just like little discussion questions. I was trying to see if like
there's any good ones.
any were good. Yeah, but these are more like for a, you know, an 8th grader to like write 2 paragraphs about. It's like this one is, why is the gang so important to Johnny? How is his family situation different from that of Ponyboy and his brothers? This one's kind of good. Ponyboy says, I lie to myself all the time. What do you think he means by this? And why do you think he does it? Do you ever lie to yourself? Why?
It's because my boy's an unreliable narrator,
Yeah.
and that's what makes it so exciting to read from a 14-year-old boy who
Yeah.
doesn't actually understand everything that
Yeah.
it isn't being truthful and everything that he's telling us.
Yeah, and that he wants to believe certain things, and he's like, oh, I'll just kind of say it to myself and maybe it'll make it
Yeah.
reality, you know?
Yeah, it's like I think he's also just such a, when we meet him, he's just such a lost soul.
Yeah.
And like it is really telling that that he'll lie to himself about certain things. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here, actually.
Yeah.
But
Here's
it's interesting.
Yeah, here's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Ponyboy says that he would rather have someone's hate than their pity. Why do you think he says this?
Hate than their pity.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Ponyboy wants most is to be seen as an equal in the world, and I feel like for him, the idea of someone hating them or hating him is because he doesn't. If you hate somebody, then it's like you're not trying to see from their point of view. You're not trying to like be like, well, he's only 14. He's trying like he's got living to do. I think Ponyboy just wants to be so involved in the action. And the idea of being pitied is so babying to him.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I don't think he would view the same thing if you hated.
Yeah,
If you hated someone.
that was a good answer. Wow.
Thank you.
Someone got an English degree.
Also an 8th grade question.
But still, I wouldn't have said that. That was amazing.
Thank you.
What does Johnny mean when he tells Pony to stay gold?
That is so beautiful. That's the most beautiful way
Yeah.
to tell somebody to stay innocent. Like, keep
Yeah.
your heart gold. It's like, wow.
You know what drives me crazy is I used to see this like probably like on Pinterest and stuff back in the day. Like this being misquoted as stay golden.
Oh,
No, it's stay
Stay gold.
gold.
Stay gold. Stay pure. Stay
Stay
gold,
Johnny.
untarnished. It's gorgeous. And you know what? I bet when that line hit the 1960s, that was crazy.
Yep.
That had to be hearing that for the first time. I would have lost my mind.
Yeah. Ooh. You know what? I have a few poems that I have memorized. Maybe I should add that gold poem
Robert
by
Frost.
Robert Frost. Yeah, I have a Robert Frost
I was gonna
poetry
say,
book.
I love that poetry book of yours. It has like
Yeah.
a moon on it, doesn't it?
I
On
need
the
to
spine?
see. Yeah.
So
Wait, let's
gorge.
pause for a second. I'll go grab
Okay.
it. Okay, here it is for the people watching. Like, look how pretty that is. And yeah, it's got so many of his poems, and some of them have kind of like little pictures with them. We couldn't find this poem in here though, but anyways, I should add it to my. I know, The Road Not Taken.
Mm-hmm. And
That's one of them. Do not go gentle into that good night, and Oh Captain, My Captain. Yeah.
Those are good ones. I don't think I have a single poem memorized.
They,
One time, when I worked at the checkout desk at my library, an older man who was a constant patron up there, he knew that I took poetry classes in college, and he one time was like, recite me your most recent poem. And I was like, I can't recite a single poem I've written. A single one. So I like tried my best. But like I was like, boy, I don't know.
yeah.
So-
I like learned, I don't remember when I started learning them, but one summer I worked like as a summer camp counselor in the camp in our hometown. And like you couldn't be on your phone, and there was this one part where like during the morning where like some days you would be assigned to like stand in one single spot
Mm-hmm.
because and you were supposed to like be the eyes to make sure kids weren't like running away from the park.
Yeah.
So anyways, there was like nothing to do because you can't be playing with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just like practice my poetry. I was basically like whispering it to myself.
Queen. What I love about you and your poem collection that you have in your head is that I feel like they're all associated. Like the reason why you love them is because they're associated with certain media that you like. And so Interstellar for Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, and then Oh Captain My Captain would be Dead Poets. And now like if you do this Robert Frost one, it'd be because The Outsiders.
True,
Nice.
true.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, and it's cool to just whip out a poem.
Yeah, I agree. I need to learn something.
Trying to bring, romanticize my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. I feel like that's the thing people used to do when we didn't have phones or something.
Completely connecting us to the world the entire time. Yeah, you're so right.
So
You're so right.
Try to keep whimsy in my life.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to talk about this book?
I'm so conflicted because I could talk about it for forever, but I also don't know if there's anything else.
No, I feel like we had a good discussion.
Yeah.
It's short and to the point, and it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope you all read it, and we hope you enjoyed our discussion on it.
I hope we talked in depth about everything because
yeah,
I don't know, we didn't get too much into I feel like Johnny or Dally's death, but like I think we talked about.
Well, this is one thing I was thinking earlier is I feel like all of the deaths in this book were like purposeful and intentional and not like
just
shock value.
Yeah, so true.
And it was like, while it was a lot, I feel like it's because within a short book, S.E. Hinton wanted to show the effects of, different types of death. Like the parents was like an accident, right? Like
car accident.
Yeah, and so it's like, that has ripple effects. When Johnny killed the guy, it was like because he was scared for Ponyboy. Oh, this was something else I was going to say earlier is like, speaking of being loyal and stuff, it's like Johnny, like, yes, it was in self-defense, but it really was in self-defense for Ponyboy.
Yeah. Like
he was so scared that they were hurting Pony really bad.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of a self-defense death. And then when Johnny dies, it's like because he was heroic and saved the kids. So like, and that's different. And then when Dally dies, it's like he almost was chasing death. Like they're all very different.
Yeah.
And so it's like they all are like revealing to the reader something different about how someone comes to a death, and also like how the people around them like will inevitably react and be affected by like different
it all goes back. It's so interesting the way that you say like the ripple effect happens, and it's like it's so true because you can trace everything back to like Pony's parents dying, and like if Pony wasn't out of the didn't get into the fight with Dally. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. I keep doing that. Okay. That's another critique I have is Dally and Derry are two similar names.
Yeah.
But so then he wouldn't have been out with Johnny, and if Johnny hadn't gotten beaten up earlier by the Socs, they would not have gotten into that entanglement, and like Johnny wouldn't have felt the need to kill somebody, and then if they never killed somebody, then they wouldn't have been on the run, and then if they never been on the run, then they wouldn't have saved those kids from the schoolyard. And then if Johnny didn't die, then Dally wouldn't have died.
Right.
And so it's just like it is so a domino effect of everything.
Yeah.
And it is so, again, I think speaking to the point of like these circumstances were kind of like predetermined in a way.
Yeah.
Kind of to the point where it's like trying to show that like these boys could almost never outrun their circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's like so tragic and upsetting, and it's supposed to kind of show the viewer, or not the viewer, the reader, you know, like having that understanding and like emotional intelligence, I think, for like
Yeah.
people who are living different lives than you.
Yeah.
And kind of like
Yeah.
what it means to be a greaser, or somebody who I say in scare quotes on the wrong side of the track or something like that.
Yeah. And it's just like, I feel like it could have been so easy, which like it's very clear that S.E. Hinton didn't write for this reason, but like it could have been so easy for multiple deaths to have happened just through like the street fights, you know?
Yep.
And it's like, but that
That's
wasn't
not,
the point,
you're
you know?
so right.
Like each one was different reasons, you know, not just, oh, they keep dying in these fights, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that is good because it's like each death felt impactful because it was different, and it like, at least for me, it stirred me emotionally differently each time.
Yeah. And I love how like the deaths are kind of like not, if you were to ask me kind of maybe toward the beginning of this book kind of what I would predict for if I were to see these characters dying, how it would have panned out, it would have been completely different. I think it's so interesting that like Bob is somebody who dies when he thought that he had all the power.
Yeah.
And he dies by somebody who he viewed as less than, and somebody who he could easily take. And then Johnny dies from being a hero.
Yeah.
And not from being scared, or from like,
or
what,
like a victim of his circumstance.
Yes. Yeah. And then like Dally being somebody who didn't die from a fight, but because he took his own life.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like he wanted to go out like that. Like, I just think it's it's just so interesting. Like, it's like I think that's why also every death feels like so impactful, is because it's just like they all hold so much meaning, and they're all so unpredictable in a way. Right.
Like, it's not what you would think after reading 2 chapters, but it's like, but by the end, it's like the arcs all make sense. Yeah,
it's good.
And to write that many different character arcs at 16, like, what?
S.E. Hinton, what were they feeding you in school? Like, girl, that's insane.
But it's like, I always hear people say, like, when you're writing like a fiction book, like, write what you know.
Yeah.
You know? It works.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
so good.
So great. Highly recommend.
And if you're in 8th grade and you're doing your book report on The Outsiders
and you're listening to us
and you have any questions about I don't know, feel free to email us. Read the last page book club at gmail.com. If you need to write an essay and you're supposed to interview someone, like, we will take your interview questions.
Sure.
And I'll type good responses, I promise. And if you're not in 8th grade and you're just a regular listener, feel free to still email us.
Lauren wants those emails.
You know, let us know, what was your favorite part? Who's your favorite greaser and why?
True.
And what scene you were most affected by, or anything else you want to tell us.
True. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was a good one.
Yeah, I like that.
Just such a good book. Just so good.
So good.
So important for American culture, I feel.
For sure.
Like, literally.
For sure. Also, it feels really good to be you know, on the outskirts of Oklahoma, because I felt like I was like, this is so, and I don't know if Oklahoma is technically considered the South or the Midwest, but to me, I consider it the Midwest.
Mhm.
I'm like, so Midwest culture.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is very us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to Read the Last Page. Our music and illustrations were created by the wonderful Sage Timothy.
If you don't know our schedule yet, we host our book club episodes on the first one. Oh, Friday. What? We haven't changed that. Sorry.
Wow.
We're reading off a script, so that's unfortunate. If you don't know our schedule yet, we host our book club episodes on the first Friday of each month. So for next month, we will be reading The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. And that episode will be out the first Friday of April. So be sure to pick up a copy and read it by then if you want to discuss it with us.
Before we get to the last page, though, we'll see you in 2 weeks for a catch-up episode where it's just besties talking. We're back on our regularly scheduled programming.
True.
And you can listen to us on your podcast platform of choice, or if you'd rather watch your podcast, you can always find us on YouTube at Read the Last Page. And also, throwing this in there, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
Read the Last Page.
We're trying to get more consistent with that.
So for now, we want to say bye from B
and Dan.
Bye.